All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Conquer Cast. Please review this podcast, leave a review, a comment. Make sure to subscribe. We're actually going to be having some weekly giveaways for those that have subscribed, and I'm very excited about today's guest. Dave Andre has been a good friend of mine for many years now, and we met each other through the hunting space. And he is one of the founders of Bakcou. If you've ever seen those cool e-bikes, and it's gone past, I mean, it's not just e-bikes now too. You've got scooters, you've got motorcycles. And I want to hear about that founding story. We'll dive into it, but Dave, thanks for being here.
That's an honor, man. I blessed, like you say, we're both, I always say we're just both simple guys here in
Yep.
Utah that just, was blessed to have great families and raise
Yeah.
us the way we are and, uh, and, and pursued our dreams, right?
Yeah, that's so true. It's so true. We had kind of a conversation before hitting record on this, and many of those moments I wish we were recording. So we'll have to try to recreate it. We'll ask some questions that kind of go down that path. But yeah, oftentimes in life, see a brand like Bakcou and the great success that it is, the look and the feel, and the machines that you guys build. It's it looks like it's all just kind of come out of thin air, like it just happened for you. And it's never really the case when you dive into the stories of entrepreneurs and business owners. And yes, the business is doing incredibly well. It's growing. A lot of people know your brand. They're using it. They're being blessed by it and the community that you've built. But there's a story behind it all. There's layers that you kind of peel back and you see why somebody is the way that they are and how they've persevered. Because I don't know, what business easy?
No, no, no.
Hasn't been easy for me, but it looks like like Bakcou was just just a
There's time.
success overnight, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're famous overnight after 9 years or whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
they say the quote, but no, it is fun. Like there's some fun parts to it. And I think every now and then we have to ground ourselves and kind of
Mm,
look and go, man, look what we've created. Look at the opportunities we have. Look at the lives that we've changed. And it does make those, long business meetings, those constantly, I mean, we work literally 24/7 in our heads. And
yeah.
if not, emails and things that we're doing, meeting people, doing stuff, that it is tough. It is a grind, and it
Yeah.
is, but trying to enjoy it as much as we can. But yeah, there is challenges in life, growing up and even in adulthood that build who we are and build our
Yeah.
character, and yeah, and it kind of, people don't see that stuff behind the
Yeah.
scenes, right? I mean, I love your Conquer Code book. I read it. I've read it 3 times, and
He walked in the office today with the Conquer book, and I asked, have you read it? And he said, of course I have. I've read it 3 times. I just haven't had it signed. So I love somebody like that spent that much time reading what I worked so hard to put together. And so I appreciate you taking some time.
I'm honored, man. It's
So
great.
it's incredible. Yeah, there's a lot of layers to kind of peel back and explore on this podcast, because this podcast, as everyone knows, is about conquering in life, and you're a conqueror. You've conquered some incredible things, some tragic things, some. But I love that perspective that you just shared as well. Yes, it's hard, and yes, it's not easy to build a business, but we're enjoying it as well.
Yeah.
We just actually had this conversation with our executive team here at MTN Ops yesterday in one of our meetings, where we've got so much to do. We've got a board meeting this week. We've got the Conquer Summit coming up. We've got all these things that you could look at and just say, oh man, I can't wait for this to be over. I can't wait for this week to be over. But
Hmm.
no, it's like sit back, gain some perspective, look at it maybe a little bit different angle, and think, wow, we get to have this board meeting. We get to do this event with people that we love. Hopefully we're in the right mindset to enjoy the moment as it's there, as it's presenting itself, and the different opportunities of growth and stretching and everything that will come our way. And you and I, we
Yeah.
get to go out on the mountains and we get to play at times. Sometimes it's hard, it's always hard to be away from family, but sometimes that takes you away from the day-to-day responsibilities. But it's also one of our responsibilities in this industry and the partnerships that we enjoy and are building. We do that
Yep.
oftentimes
Yeah.
out on the mountain,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. And like what you're saying, for and the conquer code, like a little code for me is enjoy the moment, right?
Yeah.
Be in the moment, not be stressed about what happened yesterday and stress what's going to happen next week or whatever. But if I can continue to conquer those things coming
Mhm.
up by taking a breath and enjoying the moments that we're in as they come, good and bad, right?
Yeah.
That it definitely makes us stronger and helps us conquer,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'd love to give you a quick
Yeah.
rundown of
Please
Bakcou and
please do. Yeah,
kind of
tell
where
us
it came
about
from.
Bakcou, how it came about, and then we'll trace back to like who you are as an individual and how that was built so that we can see, okay, that definitely applies to how you've built Bakcou.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, back, my brother, we've got, I'm come from 6 kids, beautiful family, loving parents, 3 girls, 3 boys. And my brother, that's 2 years older than me, he got me into hunting back when I was 17. We did a lot of bow hunting up in the Uintas, and we were, walking roads and different things. And I'm like, man, why don't we bring mountain bikes up here and
Yeah.
mountain bike in? And even though it was, just flat and kind of rolly hills, it's freezing. So you're bundled up, you ride in, then you're sweating, it tended to not work as well as I thought. So I kind of
Okay.
gave that up. Um, turned 2000, 2016, hunting up in Idaho. They had just logged an area and we were walking the roads. And I'm like, oh man, I need to figure something out. And I think after that hunt came back and kind of seen electric bike and some little ads for some stuff. And I'm like, oh wow, that's probably would work where
Hmm.
we're at. It's motorized areas. And so it really kind of sent me on that path of kind of finding one for myself to help my hunting,
Yeah.
but then realized there wasn't that durable of an off-road
Hmm.
bike that we needed, with mid-drive power and the the components and the parts. And so we kind of started going down that road. And I've been an excavator contractor for 25 years. My partner, brother-in-law, Brian, he's a neurophysiologist. He's been a doctor. He's
Hmm.
clinics. And so we kind of went down, kind of said, hey, we'll sell a few and write our hunting off.
Yeah.
Now we can enjoy hunting and supplement a little bit more of it. And as it grew, the passion that we showed, because it truly was what we did,
Yeah.
we were kept trying to improve the product for our own
For your
hunting
own.
and
Yeah.
then share it with other people and try to get them to see how this tool can change the way they hunt and get in and get away from people. A lot of our customers are 50, 60 years old, 70, I mean, even more than that
Yeah.
now they can actually, enjoy the getting away from people, getting outdoors, right? Getting on hunts, going duck hunting, taking stuff, getting further away from the
Yeah.
majority of the people and can enjoy it. And so it's just kind of evolved from that. And it's been, you know, it was a whirlwind of the first 3 or 4 years. And, we first were backcountry e-bikes, you know,
Started in 2016.
2016, after about.
Long process to build your first bike, or how was that?
No, it wasn't too bad. I mean, I mean, obviously the first couple years we really went through a lot of trial and error, even though we were, but we would bootstrapped it. We, design and build 30 bikes and get them going. And literally, I think the first 30, every battery we had a warranty on because there's something was wrong with them and fix that. And so it was kind of an ongoing, but we would sell 30, buy 90, sell 90, sell more, buy more. We were both, we didn't need to pay ourselves. And I think that's a key to any company in your building is kind of build a foundation if you can
Yeah.
with minimizing your, taken from
Your
it if you
need.
can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was Andre Scapes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You had that going on, building a lot of waterfall, rock structures, that type of thing. And then Brian had
Yeah,
his
precision
clinics and
EMG doing neuro, diagnosing nerve disease, Lou Gehrig and stuff like that. And
have
so
you
we
continued to keep those businesses going since building Bakcou? Or?
Brian he's got down to like, one day a week
Yeah.
type thing. He's his daughter's now graduated from medical school and he's teaching her to kind of take it over because once you build that with all the insurance companies and the doctors and the the recognition, it's something that you can't just walk away from,
Yeah.
and so, but he's been dedicated to be able to do that, and still spend a massive amount of time entwined with
Back
Bakcou and
here.
running
Yeah.
things. Yeah. Um, and so we, after a couple years, we rebranded to Bakcou, and that kind of term comes from backcountry.
Yeah.
So, but we did it because Bakcou's a lifestyle brand. It's, it stems from electric bikes and transportation, but we're trying to diversify and build a fellowship, like a tribe. We have
Yeah.
a Bakcou tribe that love to be part of things, and building that also has created such a, the hunting community is big, but it's very small, and
Yeah.
it's embracing and loving, and I blame so much of our growth on just the embracement of us
Yeah.
and coming in and the relationships that we've had, and truly just loving everybody in the
Yeah.
industry, and sharing that. So, and then it's just continued to grow, and it's been a blessing for us. I
That's
think after
awesome.
about 4 years, I sold my Andre scapes to one of my estimators, kind of just let
Okay.
him take it over. I just didn't have time to, it got like, man, we're just cruising. So I kind of moved full time. I mean, I was still full time for
Right.
Bakcou. So it was Brian, but he was able to kind of handle stuff from
Yeah.
his clinics, and we check in. We were doing shipping on Friday ourselves,
Yeah.
doing different things. We moved from my rock yard little warehouse, well, from my garage there to a 2,000 square foot shop in Layton. And within a year, we had to move to Ogden to 6,000. And now that group, we thought, man, this place is huge, And within about a year and a half, we're moved into about a 38,000 square foot headquarters that's been
Is
doing
that
us
how
well.
big that is
Yeah.
right there?
Yeah. So we do all of our own warehousing and fulfillment and
Yeah. I
whatever.
like, yeah, because those bikes aren't small. I mean, you need some space for them, and
Yeah.
I've been there when you guys are unloading shipments of them. And the door goes up on the semi, and there is a semi packed full of bikes in these boxes. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome.
So it's been great, man. But yeah, it's been quite a climb, And
Yeah.
like you say, there's challenges that kind of build our who we are, our core, our faith and belief
Yeah.
in why we have a purpose here, and things happen along the way that kind of shape us of who
Yeah.
we are, right?
What's been one of the most satisfying parts of building Baku, or like maybe a moment or an experience that?
Oh, good question. I mean, I still I'm just humble because I remember, I've been hunting my whole since I was 17, right? And I'm 50. I'm 50
Yeah.
this year, so I remember, early season. I remember watching the Western Hunters, and Nate Simmons was just an icon to me, and I was like, man, that guy just grinds. I mean, there's a lot of people out there too, but for some reason, I connected with Nate. Just the way he could commentate on the films and
Mm,
talk, and I thought, one of these days I'm going to hunt with that
mm,
guy, and sure enough, met him at a Western hunt, got to be friends with him and Chris, and next thing you know, we're trying to, never hunted with him,
yeah.
but been close in conversation with his wife and his new kids, and but that's been just the highlight, right?
Cool.
Like, coming from someone just watching these hunting films to now being able to meet them and hunt with them and experience this stuff, and even a lot of the professional athletes out there, and I remember a few years back I was setting up at ATA in Indianapolis, and it was, the show was opening the next day, and I'm there kind of just fine tuning the booth. That's my, like, OCD of, like, kind of,
You kind of build them from the ground up too. Yeah, I've seen you putting stuff together, and it's impressive.
yeah, thanks, man. My family's a bunch of artists. My artistic was in my rock work and what I did, and so now my artistic going into Bakcou is kind of the brand and the feel and the look, and kind of, just trying to make that unique lifestyle brand, and yeah, it just kind of comes natural.
Yeah.
I can picture it, and then I can kind of lay it out and do it. But I was there late, and this, guy comes up with a baseball hat on, and he says, "Hey, Dave, man, I've been wanting to meet you. I knew you're here. I seen a post or something. It's Dustin." And I'm like, "Hey," I'm like, "Dustin Lynch? What? Are you kidding me?" And he's like, "Yeah, dude, you're awesome, man. I just wanted to meet you." And I'm like, and so we had a great conversation, and still to the day friends, and I made a lot more good friends and close relationships with these, icon athletes or musicians or actors, and I love the part of when you can embrace their hobbies with them and
Mm.
talk hunting or talk treat them just they want that, just they're normal peoples
Yeah.
like us, and
They want
having
a
that.
good old boy
Yeah,
conversation, right?
yeah,
About their passions in life. That's
and they
good.
love that. That's been some of the highlights of what we've done, and then watching some of these older guys and gals be able to get out and do more and get in shape and love riding the electric bikes, and they constantly send us emails, and guys like, man, I would have never killed my trophy, my buck I was after this year without my bike. I was able
Mm.
to spot it, and just I knew I wasn't, so I got out of my stand, was able to cruise around real quick, got up in another one. Sure enough, he came by, and you guys made it happen. Like,
Mm.
this is just, I'm like, all right, this is why we do it, right? This
Mm.
is why we
That's
do it.
awesome. That's really cool, man. That's great. What about, I'm gonna take the opposite question now. Like, what's been one of the more difficult things about business or building Baku in general?
Yeah. The because we're family, like when me and Brian partnered, and the first commitment we said is family. We're not going to do anything to jeopardize our
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
Family will come
Smart.
first, you know. And so that's been kind of like our key, like, value in ways between me and our families, and it's been tough, right? I mean, we're two totally different personalities,
Yeah.
but at the same time we needed both of that to
Yeah.
grow where we are,
Yep.
right? And so that's been tough. The Obviously, bootstrapping the company and putting just constantly investing our own, and taking 3 or 4 years before we paid ourselves. I mean, we were
Yeah.
being able to enjoy hunts and enjoy relationships and meeting people and going to those, which is amazing. And then, the COVID swing was great. And then inventory craziness and back orders and trying to get inventory, trying to get shipping when the shipping rates went sky
Yeah.
high and warehouses were closed. I mean, it was, I think being a new business, we
Yeah.
didn't know any better. So we,
Yeah.
we were able to navigate and pivot and kind of learn as we needed to go and do it. And, and, that's the best way that I can say. And I always tell my team, like, if we're not failing, we're not trying hard enough, but if we fail, we need to learn what
Yeah.
happened and learn from it. And then it grows,
Yeah. No, that's awesome. We've seen a lot of that as well, and you and Brian being different from each other. So often that's the best recipe because um, he has a skill set that you don't have, and you have a skill set that he doesn't have, and then it's finding that ability to really focus in on those positives and those pluses, and putting them to work in the best way, and then it's interesting with inventory. There's sometimes when you don't have enough, and then there's sometimes you have too much, and it can stress the cash flow or the revenue opportunities if you don't have enough. And so it's yeah, there's always something in business that you're
Yeah.
problem solving for, and that's really what it is. It's there's solutions to them, and those solutions bring about opportunities for growth and for connection with people and your customers. So it's always such an interesting game to play,
Oh
and
yeah.
you guys are on an awesome mission to do so much good. I've seen so many customers using your product, and we have very common customer base as well, where people use Mountain Ops and they drive a Bakcou,
Yeah.
and it's been awesome to see that as well. It was awesome to introduce you to the Jordan family in South Africa, and I think you pushed back on. Maybe you didn't so much. Maybe there's been hunters in the industry that are like, nah, I don't want to do Africa yet, and then you fully embraced it.
Oh yeah.
And they've got your bikes down there, they've got your motorcycles down there. Yeah, like tell me how that's been. You've now explored different parts of the world, South Africa being one of them. We had an
Yeah.
awesome event this last year
Yeah,
together.
no, and I appreciate that introduction. It's been life changing for my family and for myself. Like, I remember the first time going down. I think what sparked the conversation is I wanted to hunt a lion.
Lion, yeah.
Yeah, I love dangerous game. I love bow hunting, dangerous game. And when you introduced me to Paul and talking with him and the opportunity to go down there, I mean, that was
I
you know.
think Paul told me, "You can come and hunt a lion with your bow, and I'll back you up with a bow." And I think you were like, "I'll go do it." And I was like, "I'm not gonna do that." No, yeah, you are dangerous game, man.
Yeah. Yeah, and so when we got down there, it was just it blown me away. The family for sure. My wife is still just massive good friends with all their wives
Yeah,
and constantly talking. And
yeah,
I've been blessed to be able to take my kids with me every year, and we've gone the last 3 years, and doing the conquer events down there and feeding the poverty down there and letting my kids see that, and watching their hearts change in ways of like, so the next year they're like, Dad, both of them packed massive bags of all their toys and
yeah,
clothes that they don't have and they don't need anymore. And,
yeah.
and I think we packed 11 suitcases, our max, that we could
Yeah,
fly down there.
I was impressed with that. There was so many Bakcou bags coming off the plane. I had no idea you guys had brought that many, and yeah, full of stuff for these families and kids.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's been amazing. And the hunting down there is remarkable. It does get kind of um, there's so many different games. It's not shooting barrel, it's not shooting them in a barrel. And especially if you can bow hunt and because you get stalks morning and night, like,
Yeah,
and you don't know what animal you're going to walk in on, like, and I was out trying to chase some impalas and I wanted a kudu with my bow. Um, and was able to, one just kind of popped out and I'm like, oh, I'm going to stalk over there and see if I can get on that kudu, and end up taking him. And it is just a marvelous place,
yeah,
life changing to
yeah,
see the people down there, and seeing how far the $100 goes. People don't realize here how far $1 can go in
yeah.
South Africa,
So true.
and they need it.
They do. Yep. No, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. What's your favorite thing to hunt?
Man, it's always been Rocky Mountain elk
Yeah.
during the rut and chasing them in the rut, and that. But it's right now it's a toss up with Africa. Boat hunting with
Yeah.
South
Did you
Africa
ever
with the
think you'd say
toys.
that?
I never didn't. I know. I never thought I would say that, but man, it's a rush to go chase a
Yeah.
bow down there, and
Yeah.
you just don't know what you're going to run into,
So true.
and it's amazing. But yeah, I love chasing Rocky Mountain elk, and
Yeah.
that's kind of one of my bucket lists of like kind of goals. I actually wrote it in your book of like things to do. Is I've always wanted to try to plan a September to hunt 4 states, 4 weeks back to back. Hopefully I can physically do it this
Yeah.
year, but this year it kind of fell together that
Huh.
that's what's going to
Wow.
happen. And so I'm pretty
You've
excited
got
for
that
it.
coming up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us about that real quick. What are you
So
doing?
first weekend to Idaho, we're going to do kind of an area that we've been hunting for probably the last 10, 12 years.
Okay.
And then from there up to Montana. Got some good friends with the Montana Hunting Company with Lee and Tiffany that
Yeah.
kind of go up there. Lee connected me, and then over to Colorado
Yeah.
with
With Brad
Brad. Yeah,
from from Bear Mountain.
Bear Mountain. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so
That's
then
awesome.
back.
You'll be with a handful of our guys,
Yep.
and you'll be with Del Brisby.
Oh, sweet. I'm excited. Yeah, we're
That's
stoked on that. So,
cool. And then
well,
back to
and
Utah.
then the first week was going to be before that Utah, and
Yeah.
then Idaho, Montana, Colorado.
Very cool.
So just because Utah's a little earlier,
Yeah.
it's a little tougher, but
Wow.
so it should be fun. I'm
That's
excited.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Do you come home in between for a day or two, or is it just one thing to the
Yeah,
next?
I'll have to. Yeah, I want to come home, see my wife and kids, and kind of recoup and then head back out. But it'll probably be, if am successful, obviously then we'll try to head out. I don't want to try to wait to the last minute
Yeah.
to just then head off again. But yeah, I've got to come back and see the
Awesome.
wife and kids.
That's cool. Well, good luck on that. Hope you conquer all 4 states. I'm sure you will. But incredible. What's next on the horizon for Bakcou? Any exciting things coming up, or anything that you want to share with everyone to be
Yeah,
watching?
right now I've been R&D, and like our team is the Bakcou Moto, like our motorcycles. We see a big opportunity in that field, and we've got some good designs, and we've been working on it. I mean, since day one, I've always wanted to have a high powered bike that was just, it's a motorized but silent. Or you
Yeah.
get around and get
Yeah.
a little quieter, you go a little farther and faster with them. And so that has really been growing. And I mean, we're again trying to design and then small batch, and they'll sell out before we can even get to our launch. And
Mm.
so now we've got, so this is kind of what we've been doing this year is our launch of the Moto, and also the launch of our new SD models, which is just a new design with a lot of new features, with integrated the racks with quick release
Mm.
attachments, dual battery opportunities, IoT, the Bakcou Connect app that you can track your bike, arm it, know where it's at. Lots of technology in there with our ODP, so you can keep it legal, turn it to a class one,
Mm.
class two, class three, so you can abide by the laws where you're ever going to go.
And you just switch that?
Yeah, it's in the programming in the display. So you kind of
Okay.
go in there. Class one, you do have to remove the throttle from the bike completely to
Okay.
be a class one. And hopefully by hunting season this year, 2025, the Fed that kind of gave a green light that they've passed it, but it needs to go through just before it is done. But they're about 100% sure that
Mm.
that will be passed, because right now they kind of put a blanket ban on Forest Service, and with no snow electric bikes, because
Yeah.
they don't really understand the laws, and they need to have regulations, because there's high powered bikes that don't need to be on trails, but there's class one, two that, there's older class, like I say, a lot of our customers are in their 60s and older that can't take a regular bicycle and ride
Yeah.
up a trail to get into a way, and the e-bikes allow that for them. A lot less effort on the rider to get in to be able to hunt and whatnot.
It's awesome. Well, man, that sounds exciting. That's cool. Can't wait to check those motorcycles out. My son has been wanting one for a while, so we'll have to talk and see what my I grew up in a family where my dad ran hospitals, and so he was always telling me like the worst accidents that I see, blah blah blah, coming on motorcycles. So it was never a thing growing up, and now I see what people are doing in the backcountry, and then to have it an actual motorcycle now, it's awesome, man. So congrats to you, the team, you, Brian, and your team, everything you've done. Your team's always been so kind to me, so kind to the Mountain Ops team. We're gonna, some of us be together this Friday celebrating our 11th year anniversary, and we'll be giving away some Bakcou stuff. And
Yeah.
always appreciate your
Same
generosity.
here. You guys have been great.
So
So love the
yeah,
relationship. There's
it
more here than as a friends and family than we are
100.
brands.
I agree. I agree, and that's what it's done for us. It's awesome that brands can come together, but then the relationships on a personal level that are created, that's where the magic is, and what I'm so grateful for. So thank you.
You bet.
Leading into this, I mean, yeah, a brand like this doesn't just come out of nowhere, and the ability to stand the test of time or to weather through difficulties. You have to be resilient. You have to be willing to kind of face the storm head on in life. And so, if the business was your first time doing that, I think a lot of people would just give up when the going gets tough.
Yep.
But that's where you're different. And knowing a little bit more about you now, and peeling back some of those layers, I had heard about your brother. I didn't know about your sister. And then there's a story about some twins as well. And so let's go back. Like, I don't know where you want to start on that, but there's been some tragedy in your life. There's been some loss. And I want to understand how you've conquered those, how you're conquering. Maybe it's still conquering. I don't know. And maybe some counsel we can give those that are listening that might be facing a similar thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, no. And like I talked with Trevor before, like I'm a very, kind of a closed book, I guess.
Yeah.
Not like I am afraid of, sharing things that happen, but a lot of it is sentimental to myself,
Yeah.
and I like to kind of deal and work on it with myself, but having this opportunity that I'm thankful for Trev, and prayed to be open, and be able to share experiences in my life that, hopefully people can see that, no matter, they see this Bakcou Dave and we're hunting and we're riding bikes, and they're always like, man, you got the best life ever, and truly I do. Like,
Yeah.
I come back and I'm like, man, why I do have a beautiful wife and a beautiful family, and just an embracing surrounding, and like, there's a lot of out now with emotional health and depression, and I've definitely been a culprit of it. It's been a thing my whole family's kind of dealt with,
Mm.
and dealing with it, and it's something that um, you constantly kind of have to work on,
Yeah.
right? And build. And it started back, I mean, my wife and I got married in 1999. We're celebrating 27 years this
Mm.
August. And
Congrats. That's
um,
awesome.
yeah, thanks, man. And, you know, we had a close friend circle with, my wife's twin, her husband's sister was married to my brother. And so, it all kind of happened, not really by, any way, just kind of came together. And it was a beautiful thing because
Yeah.
we were family, but we were all best friends, and we did a lot of traveling. It's just who we were with. And so my brother was a major mentor, my best friend growing up, and got me into the hunting space. Like I said, Bakcou wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him getting me into hunting and teaching me the ropes, and taking me out and sending me off, and then just me just constantly learning and growing and experiencing the missed shots and the devastation of the heartbreak of not harvesting an animal for multiple years, but just enjoying in that
Yeah.
space. And as we moved on in marriage, my wife and I, probably like a lot of people, struggled to start a family. We started trying to start a family about 8 years in. Went about every process for 3 years, down to finally went to the University of Utah here, the specialist in the IV, I guess can't even say it right now, but the IVF
Yeah.
area,
Yeah.
and that's a big investment. And
Yeah.
so, um, trying to take that mortal man of my money, and but I wanted a family,
Yeah.
and kind of say, okay, forget about it. We want this family. And so we invested some money. The first attempt failed, but we were able to capture a lot of embryos. And
Mhm.
um, on the second one, we placed two in this time because my wife's a twin, my mom's a twin. So they're like,
Mm.
you got high risk of twin. The first
Mm.
time we'll put one.
Wow.
So the second one, they said, all right, we'll put two. Well, they took, and
Wow.
we were blown away. We were just over the moon. We were ready for it. We um, got 15 weeks in. It was a boy and a girl. We named him Scout and Striker, and we were starting to plan. My wife's a planner and just does tons of stuff. But for some reason, she kind of put off the nursery. And finally, we got 21, 22 weeks in, and we started shopping for baby, cribs, and kind of started a little bit with the room, but not much. And um, come 24 weeks, one late night, she comes to me and says, Dave, I'm in a lot of pain. Like I don't know what's going on. Like I want to go to the hospital. I'm like, no, you're fine. Like, man, you're
Mhm.
okay. Let's go in the morning, just get some sleep. I think it was like midnight. And she's like, no, I gotta go. I gotta go. And so I said, okay, let's go. And jumped into the car, and we ran up to the hospital, and um, started checking her out, putting her in there. And sure enough, she was in early labor. She
Mm.
was in, going into labor. So they were doing everything they can to postpone the labor. And, um, within a day and a half, the, just with, the nurses, everybody checking, she ended up getting a fever. And so there was some type of infection that
Mm.
had got into her. And at that point, I don't want to lose my wife,
Yeah.
and so we um, finally just had to decide to deliver the babies. They were, and they came fully alive, beautiful babies, boy and a girl, and we did have that time to be able to hold them in our arms while they were alive for the small time, and embrace them. And after, I think they were born alive after 21 weeks, they're considered a live birth.
Yeah.
So, you know, we gave him a baby blessing and a name, and it was one of the most beautiful, I think, for my whole family that was there. We just have a massive family that embraced us. Um, and I remember just maybe a few hours before they decided we were going to do delivery, I found myself out in the back waiting room, and hit my knees and just prayed, saying, God, please comfort me through this, because I know this is going to happen. We're not going to have them. But why would you send us these, get us to this point, and then take them away? Like, I don't get it. Like,
Mm.
why? You know? And, a peace came over me for a while, and it went back into the room, and, we were preparing for the delivery, and it happened. And it was very spiritual, very great time, and the the connection that my wife and I went through for that was such a bonding experience, even with my family and so many people that kind of was able to experience that with us. This was in 2009. Um, and then, you know, and it's still kind of a mysterious because nobody will admit, but at the time we lived in East Layton, and we were up there probably 10, 12 years, and not real active in our church. We're still members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and um, had a great couple neighbors that constantly, hey, I'm going to save you a seat on the pew. I'm going to
Mm.
save you a seat on the pew, and someone after that left the hospital had just drove through our neighborhood and happened to find a counselor of the bishopric and kind of told them what was going on. And later that night, our bishopric showed up at the hospital and was just comforting and got to know them. I didn't really even know who they were. And Bishop Larkin, we're still just, he's amazing because he's the one that changed my spiritual rebirth.
Mm.
Like as they came up and we were actually ready to go home that night, and they said, well, let us help you with some flowers and we'll take some stuff home. And
This was the night that the
it
twins
was a couple days
passed, or a few
after.
days after.
Yeah, a few days after that it passed. Um and a lot of flowers, and I couldn't do it. And they were like, let us help, and they put them in all their cars and carried them out and took us home, and brought in a lot of flowers and left, and then um family was there, and by 8 o'clock that night, we were tired, and everybody left, and it was just me and my wife home. And we at that time we knelt down and we prayed. It was about 10:30 at night, and I said, Lord, why take this from us? Why? We've worked so hard. I don't see why this had to happen. And in the middle of and I said, I need help. Like, I need help. In the middle of my prayer, before I finished, my door knocked, and I stopped, and I kind of was like, man, who's there? It's like 10:45 now, and I go and open the door, and it's my bishop and his wife. He had no idea what was going on, but he drove by and he said, hey, Dave, I missed a card. It was in my back seat, fell out, and I seen your lights on. I thought, I'm just going to bring this card by. And I said, Bishop, come in. And him and his wife came in and spent about 2 hours with us, really connecting us back to
Mm.
the stuff that I knew, but needed to be woken back up, right? And rejuvenated in me. And I look back at that turning point and I thought, man, if I would have had some buddies show up with some beer or whatever, who knows what would have happened
Mm.
in my life,
Mm.
Like, I needed something. And if that's God's, I'm like, well, they sent him to help me, and that's not what the help I want. Um, and so the the road after that was so amazing.
Mm.
Like, we have a close friend. It's kind of her spiritual gift is she does have a connection with people that has passed on, and she has a gift, and she had a dream. Because for me, I was the shield that was placed upon me was so strong that nothing could waver me at that
Mm.
point. Like, I was all in. And she shared a dream that she had of, she said, I pictured Dave walking through this jungle, and lions and everybody were there, and he just would walk right past them, and literally all of them would just bow, and like he just was he was just
Mm.
on that path. And I still remember that, and that's something that kind of you know can when I can kind of go back and say, I have that still in me. I'm going to conquer,
Mm.
right? And leading down that within on the following year, 2010, April 1st. It's kind of funny because it landed on April 1st. We didn't plan it on April
Yeah.
1st, but it was Fool's Day. We had been working to go through the temple,
Mm.
and because to get married, get sealed, and then to get sealed to our twins that we lost. And we we did that on our own. We didn't. discuss it with our parents and our friends or family, because we had both sides of the spectrum of friends that were not church members, and maybe fell away and thought the temple was not the thing to do, and
Mm.
they would have gave us their feedback.
Yeah.
And then we have the fam that they would have been bawling and giving us their feedback. And so me and my wife spiritually went through this journey with ourselves and my bishop and the temple people, and got to that point. And we end up telling my another brother of mine and her brother Brian to say, hey, this is what we're doing. Can you get the families to the temple so they can be there for
Huh.
us? We don't we, not that we wanted to surprise them, but we wanted that them to know it was for us,
Yeah.
not for anybody else,
So
right?
powerful.
And so they were able to get all of our family there.
Mm.
Like, and you know how hard it is to get people to the temple,
Yeah.
right? Even ourselves to the temple.
Yeah.
And when they showed up and they were sitting there and they said, okay, whoever's here for the live endowment for Dave and Jamie Andre, it was, people lost it. They're like, they come walking in and we're sitting in there. And I mean, it was amazing.
They didn't know
They didn't know.
until it was announced.
They didn't know until they came into the endowment room and seeing us there, and the experience of us. And I don't, like I said, I don't know how they planned it, because however it went down, maybe it took us a lot longer to go
Mm.
to do our things. But as we finally came through, most 90% of our family were through the veil. And as we came through, they were there for us, just like what in heaven would be like, right?
Wow.
It was right there. And then we were able to move and take the family and do the sealing with my wife and I and the twins, and
Wow.
had some proxies for them. And I think it was just the beautiful moment. So that was just a major turning point of my spiritual rebirth and resurrection for myself.
Wow.
And it's been a key point in my life of moving forward with faith and conquering and courage, um, and what has led to kind of build me up. And and it
So powerful.
yeah, and it doesn't stop there. I've got a lot
Let
of
I
journey.
want to I want to talk about some of the other moments as well. But let's just pause for a moment on that one. Man, you got the sweaty eyes going with both of us today. I think of that. What a tragic experience. What a hard thing to go through. I can't comprehend. I can't empathize the way I'd like to, because I've never been there in a situation like that. Having twins born and knowing that you'll only have moments, or how long do they live for?
Probably 20 minutes and stuff,
Yeah,
but
knowing you had 20 minutes
yeah,
with these little angels that would now be angels in heaven that have charge over you.
yeah,
And I want to talk about that, because there's some that aren't of our faith, and I'm not going to get religious on this, but I want to explain. What I love about this story is you've shared multiple times how you found yourself on your knees, just turning to God,
yeah,
and then you two as a couple coming together, turning to God. So often in times like this, you can either you turn away from each other, turn away from God, be angry with God, and it's okay to
yeah. In
God,
fact,
why? Like ask, like, yeah,
in
throw
fact, my wife had a hard time to finally conjure up and tell my bishop. She's like, I'm so pissed right now at Heavenly Father. Like, I don't know why. And he said, it's okay. It's okay. But you know why? Because you have a relationship with
Mm,
him.
yeah,
You know he's there. And he wants to be there. He wants you to be mad. He wants you to come to him so he can
yeah,
comfort you and fill you, just like with our own parents, right? You come to your parents, and if you're upset and you're mad and you talk to them, they want to know that you have that relationship, that you can
yeah,
come in and do that with them.
yeah,
And that was a big turning point in her. She's like, I didn't think that was okay. I didn't think that was okay to get mad at him like that,
yeah.
you know?
In the Bible dictionary, in the King James version of the Bible, I love the section on prayer, and I'm gonna botch this a little bit, but it says, as soon as we come to realize the relationship we have with God, meaning that we are His sons and daughters, and He is our Heavenly Father, then all of a sudden this connection and this relationship becomes so much more.
Yeah.
And we can turn to him. We can express whatever it is, and he wants us to.
Hmm.
And so often in life, the things that we desire are, they're just predicated upon us asking for. And he
Yeah.
says, ask, you
Ask.
shall receive,
Yeah.
knock, you shall find, you
Yeah.
know,
And I want to
speak.
share real quick too, like if anybody's out there that literally if you're whatever religion, if you believe in God or you don't, just it's okay to go to him mad. He wants to hear from us.
Yeah.
Like, mad or not, go talk to him.
Yeah.
Talk to him just like you're going to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this formal thing. It could be, yeah, it just, he wants to hear from us just
Yeah.
like we want to hear from our kids, you know?
So powerful. And that's what the temple is all about. Well, before I get to that though, I love that your bishop showed up late at night like that, and that you recognized that, hey, it could have been somebody else that showed up with a different message or a different, gift, beer or this card or whatever. And I just think those listening, are you showing up? And are
Mm,
you showing up the right way in the
yeah.
lives of those who need you most? Are you following those impressions? Do you notice the light on and say, it's okay, I'm going to go knock on the door? Um, what a wonderful bishop, and more than that, just a bishop and his wife, a man and a woman that are, yeah, let's go knock on their door.
Yeah.
They may need us right now. Right in the,
And yeah, exactly. Like be in tune. But him in tune was, oh, I'm just gonna drop this card
yeah,
off. Like it was just like we just want to drop this by
simple,
and
right?
leave. Like, but no, God prompted him that we needed
Yeah,
him in
yeah,
that moment, and he listened to it.
yeah.
And that's what we need to
Yeah,
keep.
you don't need to know the outcome. You don't need to know exactly what's going to transpire, needs to transpire. You just need to respond to
Mm,
the voice that tells you, go knock on the
go
door, go
knock on the
drop the
door.
note off.
Yeah.
And so, how are we showing up in the lives of those around us? The temple, for us in our faith, is a place where additional connection is made with our heavenly Father, where covenants and ordinances are done through the holy priesthood. And so when Dave talks about this, and those that don't understand our faith, you might have seen these beautiful temples being built all around the world.
Yeah.
It's incredible. For me, anytime I hear, and we hear this every 6 months, we're pleased to announce temples being built in the following locations. I do what I'm doing now. Um, it's the most powerful moment in those 6 months, because every 6 months we have a church conference and they announce where these temples are going to be built. For me, it feels as if in this location of the world there will be greater connection with God.
Yeah.
In this location of the world, there will be a greater opportunity for connection with God. In this, and sometimes you'll hear it announced in the Philippines or in Brazil or in Mexico, and you hear these cheers. And my daughter, when she was in the missionary training center in Brazil, she was in there with a bunch of Venezuelans, and they announced a temple being, and they fell to the floor just in tears, because now in their home country, close to their home, they could go and make further covenants and promises and commitments to strengthen their relationship with their God.
Yeah.
And
And
so in
in
many,
turn, God grants the same thing back. I
yeah,
will bless you
oh, bless you.
beyond
Yeah,
beyond you can imagine if you make these covenants with
yeah,
me. Yeah. And a lot of these countries that are, they have to travel miles,
yeah,
days
yeah,
sometimes to be able to get this experience. So when we can bring it closer to them to
yeah.
experience it more often, it's beautiful.
So it's the ultimate in our faith, is to enter into one of those temples to make further covenants. You heard Dave say an endowment. It's a gift, and it's a gift that gives for the eternities. And then to be in there with family that has not expected to see you in there. Maybe you've been distant from God. Maybe you haven't been trying to, or that they didn't know you were attempting to come closer to God in your life, and to use this experience as a guiding post, not a hitching post to say, oh man, we're just so mad. No, it's guided you towards God, with the help of others that were willing to respond, and then to have your family witness you walking in. I can just picture it now, and it just feels like heaven to me as I picture that. And then Dave and his family, we have what's called a sealing ordinance in our faith, in a temple, under the power and authority of God, a priesthood holder that seals families on earth and in heaven.
Yeah.
And that's the ultimate covenant that is made in those temples, bringing families together for eternity. And so that's when Dave explains that this is a huge moment.
Yeah.
It has eternal significance, and so somebody vicariously by proxy stood in place of their son and daughter that had
Hmm.
passed on, sealing that family unit together.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that I can only imagine what that reunion will be in future days,
Yeah.
when you get to hold them and you
Yeah.
get to be with them and spend that time with them. And I know these moments are hard, but I also know they're temporary.
Yeah.
There's sometimes in life we all experience them. If we haven't yet, you will experience these temporary separations, and they're difficult. And it's okay to ask God why, and it's okay to ask, what's the wise purpose behind this all. He always does things for a wise purpose, and so I can see that in you and the way that you've lived, and the way that you and your wife have approached it. So I appreciate that example. So you went from that tragedy, and then you've experienced others that have built you. Tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah. Um, so again, I was blessed to, be raised with six kids. The youngest one, my little angel sister, Katie, she was diagnosed at a young age with Rett syndrome, which is a little neurological disorder where the nerves don't connect fully to the brain, and the communication doesn't happen. So, she's been in a wheelchair from 2 years old and self dependent on my mom.
Yeah.
My mom was just an angel to take care of her, and my dad, my whole family. It was something that I think, looking back, taught all of our kids and the family, even the hard times you go through as a young man, kind of embarrassed of the wheelchair and the, taking, you're like, just that stuff's, but as long that you, along aside, set that aside, the the grace and the love and the charity that I found with her, and knowing that God made her this way to change me,
Mm.
to make me find love and embrace her. And same with my whole family. And growing up, she wasn't, lived past 13, 18, 20. Um, in 2013, she was 29. And there was a couple times that we, were at primary children's, and we all came together as a family and prayed and let her go and took her off life support, and she pulled through.
Wow.
And probably at her healthiest point, she, one night in January, she just, my dad woke up, went to check on her, and she had passed away.
Mm.
And
At her healthiest point.
at her
So
healthiest point, but I think most of her peaceful point. She knew our family was at peace. We knew that it was probably her time to go, and give some time for my parents to, because that was her life, and um, let them, because it was their life. Now they could
yeah,
have a little bit different of a life, even though it was hard for my mom to transition, because I mean, that's
just
just her.
loving and
It's her.
caretaking.
Yeah, yeah. And so, you know, that was just a amazing, tragic time to lose her, but knowing that now she's in a better place, fully able to dance and
Mm.
talk and sing and do whatever she could now that she couldn't do before, made it just a beautiful time, and
with
so,
with your son and daughter, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, reunite with them and just and love on each other, and getting through that. um I was in 2013, and uh, getting into 2016, starting Bakcou, and my brother was my mentor a little bit, and working with him, and um getting down, maybe, you know to 2020. My brother was 2 years older than me at the time. He's 46, I was 44. And I remember the last text. He was in St. George over Memorial Day weekend, and he went down there with some friends, and he was in a bike shop, and he sent me a picture of a $15,000 specialized e-bike,
Mhm.
because they were going to rent some e-bikes to ride some trails. And maybe we'll share some pictures, I don't know,
Yeah.
on it, of how he
Be great.
was. Just his lifestyle was clean. He
I've
just
seen him. He was a very fit individual.
Yeah, and it was just his lifestyle. Like, he meal prepped, he cleaned, just his fun thing was a pizza on Friday night, and maybe something on Saturday as we'd all go out every weekend and have some fun. Um, but the last person that I think anybody would predict that he had a heart attack from heart disease with the plaque buildup in his arteries beyond um, you could believe, and hopefully, we get it later, but I'm, trying to bring awareness to that.
Mm.
A lot of guys that, even myself now, a big diagnosed with heart disease, and a lot of my family. And I find a lot of guys that don't think they need it, but
Yeah.
it's like, man, just do some, go get a CT scan. A lot of them, it's $70. You can almost walk in and do it. They scan and they'll see if there's how much calcium buildup in your arteries. And
Mm.
if it's a certain point, then they'll get you over to cardiologist and kind of start going from there. But, he sent me that, and he said, man, I wish I was on one of your bikes this weekend. And I said, well, have fun, man. Just, and they were biking, and I decided to go up to Idaho with some family, and um, we were coming down a hill, and I had a fairly new truck pulling at my fifth wheel, and never had any problem, and it kind of started giving me problem bogging down and just wouldn't go. So I pulled off the gas station. I go in, I'm working on my truck, trying to figure out why it's limp mode, and had everything topped off, and I'm sitting there, my hood up, and then I get a phone call, and it's my sister-in-law, Amy, and she's just frantic, and I can't really even understand what she's saying. And I'm like, hey, calm down. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. And she's Rob, and so her friend Annie picked up the phone, and she said, Dave, Rob died. Rob's dead.
Mm.
I'm like, what do you mean he's dead? I'm like, he's 46. What happened? Must had a heart attack on the trail. They can't revive him. Like, he's gone. He's gone. And I had literally broke down in that parking lot, handed my phone to my wife, talked to her, and prayed right there, like, why, why take this guy from me? Like, why this now? Like, it was such a hard, when you have a mentor your whole life, literally my best friend and brother, um, go suddenly without saying goodbye, not being able to, reminisce one more time or do anything right. Um, it, it hardest thing I've ever gone
Mm.
through. I do bless, and I look back at some of them times I was in a, I had, strengthened myself, getting back in shape mentally, trying to do things to where I was luckily in a little better of a
Mm.
headspace so I could handle. And at the time, I'm like, Mom and Dad, you guys have just buried your daughter. Let me handle this. I don't want you guys. This is your son. And so um, arranging it, going through it, helping his wife. He's got a 6-year-old daughter at the time, and
Mm.
um, and so I kind of I fell into just taking care of things, taking care of everybody around, and it wasn't for a couple months later that I think the grieving started to catch up to me. So I think after my parents had to arrange and bury my sister. I told my parents I would take on, like, I wanted to do this. Now kind of my parents getting older to, I kind of become the patriarch now of the siblings, and trying to, I said, and so I took on arranging it and preparing the services, and that's hard, man.
Mm.
I remember, like, finally his body came up from St. George, and it was at the
Yeah.
Russian
Russell
funeral home
Brothers. Yeah.
out in Syracuse, and I stopped in there like midday before, just out of the blue, and I said, my brother Rob Andre died, and I I s- I I still having a hard time believing it. Can I
Mm.
see him? Can I see him? And they said, well, he's not been prepared. I said, that's he's like, doesn't look like him or anything. I said, I know. And so, they said, okay, wait here. They kind of wheeled him out, put him in a room. I said, okay, you can go in there and, spend as much time as you want. And I walked in. I mean, it was him, and I could look at him, And but there was a presence that came over me that like his this was his mortal body, but his spirit is still alive. It's gone now. It's not here. Well, it's here. I
Right.
could feel it with me,
Yeah.
but I knew that this wasn't his final destination
Yeah.
in a way. Like there's more to him. Like his spirit has left it. He's got work to do. Um, and that moment was is critical for me, I think, mentally to just know this superstar, my mentor, my older brother is really gone in
Mm.
the physical form, right? And so I'm glad that I did that. It was hard, but and then I'm not a big fan of funerals and viewings,
Yeah.
especially in situations like that. But it was healing and comforting with my family and Amy, his wife, his widow, and they had a 6-year-old daughter that was just a year apart of my son, um, and was just it was a beautiful coming together, and he was just he friended with
Yeah.
everybody that knew him. I mean, he had a massive community. He was kind of into real estate and a lot of things, and he was just a true, genuine guy. Friended everybody. I think every house he sold or listed, they become friends for
Mhm.
life. Like they just constantly do like events to kind of bring in, just have like his past and current, and
Yeah.
man, they got filled up to 200-300 people sometimes
Mm.
that
That's
he
awesome.
would host for him, and it was beautiful. And so leading on, kind of enduring that and getting stronger from 2020, you know, going, Bakcou was just growing and exploding, and we've got, stress from work and this and that, and we're going. And, um, my mom was an angel. She's always been an
Mhm.
angel. Everybody that's met her, they're just like, she's so angelic. It's like, there's nothing about her, never a mean body.
Mm.
One of those that would, you know, constantly, pick up hitchhikers and bring women
Yeah.
home with kids and feed them, and just tons of that stuff. And loved everybody. And really quick, she developed, our family kind of has Alzheimer and dementia, and a lot of her sisters had it, and it hit her really quick.
Mm.
I mean,
Mm. I'm sorry.
um, yeah, no, appreciate it. And it was kind of, it's rare, but there's a few, maybe 10% that Alzheimer affects their organs instead
Mm.
of their brain.
Mm.
So basically, their organs stop or don't know how to function, don't know how to process. And within a month, I mean, from healthy to just bed stricken, couldn't eat for weeks just because nothing would go down.
Mm.
And we lost my mom in just 2 years after my brother in 22. And
Wow.
um,
I didn't know that.
yeah, it was, like you say, you've lost your father,
Yeah.
and it's to lose a mentor and those um, figures in our lives that, we can always call and talk to, or go to dinner, go to lunch, do things, that they're not there anymore, is the hardest part. It was, uh, um, but in all, the God has a plan, and we have to really rely on it, right? And these things happen to bring us together.
Mm.
You know, I know that there's no way of getting stronger without having trials. And I said earlier, when I pray now, I pray for the blessings for trials and tribulations in my life, that God has given me this stuff to become stronger and learn and hopefully help other people. And not recognizing that, I think, can hold people back,
Mm.
and really, and it's something that you'll never get over, these losses. It's always something that is there. You can heal to a point, um, and but I think talking about it and sharing it is therapeutic for a
Mm.
lot of reasons. Um,
And it will help other. I mean, talking about it and sharing it today, hopefully, is on a platform of people that somebody's going to be walking that same path you've walked, and this is for them. There's
yeah,
probably multiple people this is for, but whoever that is that's listening out there. There's at least one, but there's probably hundreds that are going to listen and say, wow, I needed this right now.
Yeah. And hopefully, yeah. And hopefully the Lord has blessed our voices and stuff to convey the message that they feel it in their heart, and it will help them. And I know it will. And because we all suffer with things, you know, I mean, it's just, it's who we are. We're humans. We're mortal bodies to have inflictions, have pain. Um, and the going through that, the learning the inflictions and the pains that we, you know, but we know with the atonement and what Jesus did in the Garden of Gethsemane when he bled for every pore and repent for our sins, that we can be back with him, be back with our family. Um, and it's a constant everyday um, nourishment that we have to take. You know, in your book, it talks about things to do. And one thing that I've really tried to do is I have my scriptures on my desk. And anytime I sit down at my desk, I flip open, have to put my reading glasses on,
Me
read
too.
read as much as I can, and then I go back to my work. And if I get up and go to the bathroom, I do the same thing again. I
Cool.
just throw it on, read it, and then
I
back
love that.
down. And that's what I've found the easiest time for me to be able to read and kind of, you know, maybe it's just a verse, but sometimes that one verse hits me in my questions that I have for that
Yeah.
day, right?
That's powerful. That's a great actionable item for people to take and implement into their lives. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. Um, you know, and yeah, we're getting close, but yeah. And, you know, when you add all this, you know, PTSD, traumatic syndrome that we go through, so many people have it. It's not something you get from war or being a
Mm.
cop or being this. Like, we all can have this PTSD from things that happen in our
Yeah.
lives. And I think the key is to try to recognize it and then embrace why and how can it make me stronger,
Mm.
right? Um, and that helps us conquer if we can do that. Because for me, I need daily nourishment of good stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a avid, I could call it an addiction to podcasts and books and strategies, leadership books, to self help, to nutrients books, to whatever I can do to fill my soul and my
Yeah.
nutrients to help me in these moments, because I know I need it. You know, um, the as so a year later, I've I've only shared this with my wife and my therapist. Is back in August, it was another down point. A year later, after I lost my mom, I was just struggling. I was just like, not like what, you know, my life is not. And the battle is like, you have a perfect life, you have the things everybody wants, but why can't I feel happiness? Why can't I feel this? Like, I do things, but I'm so broken that I keep trying to rebuild, and that I found myself, you know, just checking out, went for a hike up in Ogden, and I was literally going to just find myself a cliff and jump.
Mm.
And, and I sat there and I thought, what are you doing? This is selfish. You got kids. What are they going to do? Look at the pain losing your brother, your mom, your sister, your twins cause so many people. You're going to do this to them because you can't man up and be that example for your kids. Be that example for your wife and your brother and your sisters and your friends and people you know. And I sat there and I said, you know, in my mind, I thought, well, maybe they'll think it's an accident. I've tripped on a hike and, you know, everything and stupid. Finally drove myself. I said, you know, I'm not healthy. I drove down to the Ogden hospital and I sat in the parking lot and just cried in the back of my car. praying. Finally, I fell asleep for probably a couple hours, just fell asleep. And my wife was pet. She knew I wasn't healthy mentally at the time. Uh, had my phone off. When I started, I just turned it on, and all of a sudden, how are you? And within just 2 minutes, my sister, my older sister, that were super close, called me. She said, "Come to my house. You need to get down here right now. I need to talk to you about something. Come down here." I said, "Why?" "Come down here and talk to me." I said, "Fine. I'll come down and talk with you. I don't want anybody else." I drove down there. As we got talking, she didn't know what I was doing. She didn't know that.
Hmm.
She knew I was suffering a little bit. She said, "I haven't told you that Kate, our my niece, our, my niece, her youngest daughter, attempted suicide 2 days ago, taking over pills and she was just out of high school. Her dad found her, was able to rescue her. She was in a treatment center, and at that point, I thought, again, like I say, I didn't. I, Nobody, I mean, even my wife didn't know that for months.
Hmm.
I didn't tell anybody. It was just something I was working with, and watching the strength of my niece pulling out of that and becoming so much better and stronger. It's I tell my nieces and nephews all the time that you guys, I look up to you more than you know. You inspire me. And they're like, "No, dude, they look what you are. You inspire us." And I said, "No, no. You guys have no idea how much you guys inspire me on what you guys do, what you believe in, how strong you guys are." Um, and Kaylee returns from her full-time mission in a month after
Wow.
going through that hard time, doing that, recovering, spending. It took some time for the church to finally release her to be able to go and feel good, but she served a full mission and just told her how much she has helped me, inspired me.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's getting rainy in here. So, but, and that was 2 years ago. And I think after that, I really have just said, "Okay, I bucked down," and I said, "I've got to continuously feed my soul with the Christ, follow him, do what needs to be done." Um, and I needed that constant nourishment,
Yeah.
and I know in the church that our faith is tattoos are kind of taboo a little bit because our bodies are our temple, and I love my temple. But I also, when I was looking at a lot of the temples and the symbolic symbols that they're just full of for what us that we can see and feel the spirit there, it took me some time to kind of work on a little remembrance of a quote that I live life, leave a legacy, Rob. And legacy isn't a grand company. It's not this or that. It's my son, what I taught him, right? Put him on a path to become a legacy. My daughter, my family, and through some of them hard times, I it hurt so much to lose so many people that were so good people that it made me go, I don't want to do this to people, so I'm pulling away.
Mm.
Like I don't want to put that on them. I don't want them to lose a good guy. Like I
Mm.
don't want to break their hearts like that. And that was a part of the depression of that kind of fought back. And I wear this thing. It says, "Prove them wrong."
Mm.
And this is for the voices in my head.
That's good.
This is like, prove the voices in your head that you get in there saying, "You're not, yeah, you're not worthy. You're not doing the right, not that, you're not good enough to this. You're imposter syndrome. You
Mm.
shouldn't be running a company like this. You shouldn't be," whatever it is, right? Like you constantly are just, with,
Just the attacks of the adversary, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
constant.
And so, just broke, like the symbol of the eight-sided star. There's a lot of symbol in the LDS with the, um, eighth day of the resurrection. So it's spiritual rebirth. on the eighth day after the seventh. The four corners of the earth of the square with a circle in the middle of the whole dome of heaven, that we're always connected. Earth and heaven is connected. The red is for the blood that our Savior shed for us to come back to Him. Um, the infinity, that God is infinite. He's always there. And then the three is God, Jesus, and the Holy Ghost, always with me all the time. And then just kind of my favorite words: fearless, courage, forgiveness, and gratitude. And I
Mm.
think if I can carry those four words through me, that's how I conquer and do a lot of good things. But
Wow. So much here, Dave. I'm so glad you're willing to open up and share, because oftentimes in life, ego truly gets in the way. We're not willing, and and lives aren't benefited because we put up the wall, but because you've broken down the walls. I know so many are going to be impacted by your story, have a greater love and appreciation for who you are, what you've been through, your experience, your empathy, your perspective, and how that applies to the business that you're growing, the people that you're working with, and how you love and serve and work with those people.
yeah,
You can't go through things that you've gone through and face them the way that you have without coming out with just empathy and love for those around you. And when I hear you speak about each of these and the way you've even though sometimes, and I think this happens to all of us in life, repentance is all about turning.
mm-hmm.
It's about correcting a course. It's about, and we talk about faith, and we talk about courage to overcome. What you've shared today is faith in the Lord Jesus Christ, and that's turning to Him.
Yeah,
It's turning to Him often in our lives, because so often, daily, we're turning a little bit away. It's the natural man,
yeah.
the
The
natural
natural
woman,
man and the
right?
adversary
And the
pushing us
adversary.
away because he doesn't want to see us to
Yeah,
turn to God or Jesus.
yeah. So it's a daily thing. It's not like you have one
Absolutely.
event in life and you're taken care of. You have one event in life, and you become a little more acquainted with the Savior.
Mm-hmm.
And then the natural man kicks in, and you slowly, at times, we turn a little bit, and
Yep.
then we have the opportunity every single day to turn back, and to
Yeah.
turn back. Every day is a new day of life, and when there's a will and a day, there's a way,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, like you say, I hope, I'm not, I was prayed before, and that I could open up and share this with people, because I think that there's a lot of men and women suffering inside that are afraid to talk about their stuff. And that for me has been probably some of the most healing processes of going through this, is being able to open up and talk about it, because the stigmatism of men with depression, or men with these troubles and things, they don't want to show that stuff, they
yeah,
don't want to talk about it. But I think that there's a lot more people in common with that can embrace each other and share, and continue to build the kingdom of God here on earth for all of us to enjoy.
yeah, so powerful. You're giving people permission to do the same right now.
Yeah, that's
You're allowing them to conquer the day, because you've been willing to break down those walls, to share, to be vulnerable, to give your perspective. And that quote that I have shared probably way too many times than I need to is, "You're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were." How do you do that unless you open up, unless you use those life's perspectives and moments, in a way that is transparent, in the way that is opening up to others to share? Okay, that's the path I'm on, and you have something that you can strengthen me by.
yeah,
And what I hear is that the tool that you've used most is your faith, and turning to a source of strength that
yeah.
can help pull you through.
So I've got a close friend that's an artist, super beautiful woman that paints, and close to our family. Has been a help with my wife and a lot of things. And 4 months after I lost my brother, I was up on a hunt, a solo hunt up in Idaho, and was able to find a bull, and move in on him, and call back and forth and get on him, and harvest this bull. And the the emotion and everything that just came over me at that moment, knew my brother was with me on
Mm.
that hunt. We spent a lot of good hunts together and different things. And um, probably a year later, um, Brooke had painted this picture, and she said, I started it so many different times and I just couldn't. And then one night I had a vision and I dream, and I got up and I just painted it and went
Mm.
and I wanted to give it to you. And she showed me, she opened it, and literally I just lost it. I lost it because she didn't know the hunt story. She
Mm.
didn't know anything about, she just knew I had love for that and he had a love for it. But the picture, and maybe we'll share it in thing, but it portrays, and it was literally the same setup. I had to kneel down. This bull finally came up over the hill and I was kneeling down, and he's facing left on me, and, you know, brought his shot right there. I mean, he, and went down. And I just lost, just enjoying the moment. Well, she gave me this picture, and like I say, I didn't share. She never. There was no picture. That was by
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
Nothing. I've never told her the story. I told her I harvested a bull. The picture was exactly the position that I was, kneeled
Mm.
down with some grass. The elk came up this way. Even on one of the horns, it was missing a G3. Just skipped it, and even in her painting, had no G3. She didn't
Wow.
know that. And just right over my shoulder, she had me kind of in green, my brother in white,
Mm.
and because I knew I felt him over my shoulder.
Mm.
It was such a beautiful. So she painted this picture for me, and then even in the background, you could see God, like kind of a symbol of it in there, and it's a beautiful moment.
Dave, I just want to end with one question that I end every podcast with, and that is from a book that we read as a team here at Mountain Ops. It's called "How Will You Measure Your Life?" And so, as a conqueror in life, when
Christian,
all is said and done, how will you measure your life?
like I just put on my arm, live life, leave a legacy. I hope that I measure my life of impacting lives and leaving a legacy with my kids and my family and friends and people that know me, who I stand for. One of my best quotes that I always try to live by is by President Dorf, that says, "Preach the gospel all the time, and when the time arises, use your voice," which means be an example,
Yeah.
right? Live your life and do the example things, and I hope that's what I'm remembered by just the silent, um, inspiring people and change, helping people conquer in by example, in from just, if it's business, if it's just small things, if it's overcoming tragedy, whatever it is, that they have the tools.
It's awesome. Powerful. Everyone, I hope you've enjoyed this just as much as I have. Please leave a comment and subscribe. Share this podcast with others. This is one that will have an impact and be super helpful for those that are going through whatever they are in life. But Dave, thanks for opening up your heart. Thanks for praying about opening up your heart and then being so willing to do so, letting the
Thank
Spirit guide those words. It's
thank
been
you.
amazing.
And thank you for always opening your heart and the things that you do. And you're such an inspiration to me and so many people. You know that.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah.
Love you, man.
Okay.
Thank you.
Me too.